So, thank you everybody. Thank you for your patience. It's my great pleasure to welcome you all here and also to welcome Annie Machon and David Shayler. We're going to talk this evening about a very important issue that is affecting us all. I hope you'll be able to listen with an open mind and ask some questions with some honest inquiry. I'll allow Dave and Annie to introduce themselves. Annie will talk for a little while and then we'll show a short DVD that will put you in the picture in terms of information. And then after Dave will speak for a while and have a short break and then a period of questions and answers. So once again, welcome and thank you. And I'll hand you over to Annie.
About 2 months ago and had a fantastic time. So I'm not going to take up too much time this evening because I'm sure that Dave's got a lot to say. He missed the last session. I just want to say a few words really about what's happening with his case. He is going to be back in court in 2 days' time. You think they might have done their worst to him, but it's going to get worse again, I think. So I just really wanted to run through for a few minutes about why this is all happening and how I think it relates to the bigger picture. As I said last time, Dave and I both joined MI5 in the early 1990s to stop terrorism. And in fact, what we saw when we joined the service was rampant corruption, incompetence, criminality, and indeed state sponsorship of terrorism. So it really wasn't why we joined the service, it really wasn't why we had signed up to do our bit for the country. Now, the reason we went public is we tried to change things from within. That did not work. We were just told to shut up, to follow orders, and not rock the boat. So eventually, in disgust, we left. This was back in 1996. And we went public about a whole range of things that we saw going wrong within the spy system. And the primary reason we did that was because of something that's become known as the Gaddafi plot, whereby we have MI6 funding Islamic extremist terrorists with known links to Bin Laden to carry out an assassination of the head of state of Libya, Gaddafi. Now, as I said, this was not why we joined the service. We were there to stop terrorism, to try and protect people, not to get involved in coup attempts, which were illegal as well as immoral. And our view now, really, is that Gaddafi plot was a very early example of state-sponsored false flag terrorism, such as we see, as we will explain around 9/11 and the other attacks. But what I really wanted to say was that, obviously in this country, if you go public and you are a former spook, you're breaking a piece of law called the Official Secrets Act. This is the most draconian secrecy law in any Western country. This means that if you report crime, even if you're reporting an assassination, you are the one who's committing the crime and you go to prison, not the people who perpetrate that crime. So David blew the whistle on the Gaddafi plot. David was thrown in prison twice, not once, twice. First of all, when he was in France, when they tried to extradite him. And secondly, when he came back voluntarily to his country to face trial and was convicted in a show trial. And of course, the two people that we know about who were implicated in this plot, who planned it, who funded this plot, have never even been interviewed, let alone arrested, let alone put on trial, and certainly let alone being put in Belmarsh high security prison for weeks, which is what happened to David. So we blew the whistle for that reason. Now, of course, they have the Official Secrets Act, which is, as I said, very draconian. You think that would be enough? I mean, the penalty for blowing the whistle is up to 2 years in prison for each charge, and also an unlimited fine. However, the government has another little card up its sleeve. It's the civil law, whereby they injuncted David and the press in this country. Now that means they gagged him from saying anything about MI5, and they gagged the press from reporting anything he said about MI5 if he chose to break that law. They took out an injunction, a panicked temporary injunction, a week after he first went public in 1997. Now, this injunction said that he was not allowed to talk about anything he'd seen in MI5 except what had already appeared in the Sunday paper where he blew the whistle. Now that was pretty low-level stuff because basically, on Sunday, didn't have the balls to go with the really serious stuff like the Gaddafi plot. They went with some low-level stuff such as MI5 arguing Peter Mandelson. holding files on people who are now heading up the government. MI5 illegally phone tapping Guardian journalists, rampant drunkenness, and also a very dangerous operation against the Libyans, which really slowed down the whole operation and could have led to a major terrorist attack in this country. That is what David came out with, first of all, in the Sunday newspaper. And he, in the terms of the injunction, is allowed to talk about that. This is a temporary injunction, and as I said, it was taken out against not only him, but also the media. Needless to say, they've dropped the injunction against the media because they've got very expensive lawyers, they're very powerful, the government is very frightened of them. They have stayed it against Dave, which meant they just put it in abeyance for a few years, pending the outcome of his criminal trial. Now, of course, he was convicted, he went to trial, he was convicted back in 2002. Immediately upon his release from prison, we said to MI5, we said to the government, well look, let's get round the table, let's thrash this out and sort out the injunction. We don't want it hanging over our heads forevermore, and you want a resolution to it too. They told us to disappear. They weren't interested in sorting it out. They wanted to hold it over his head like a sword of Damocles, and they have done so. And they use it with the media to stop him going on TV, to stop him writing newspaper articles, to make personal criticism of our spies. Now bear in mind all the sort of intelligence mistakes in the last few years. You know, the mistaken, the wrong, the lies, and the intelligence that led up to the Iraq War. We've had, you know, the intelligence vacuum which they admitted to in the run-up to 7/7. I mean, these guys are just not doing their job. David and I have things to say about this, and we are being stopped from saying them, apart from here, obviously. Anyway, the latest development in this is that finally the government's woken up to the fact we are getting very active in the 9/11 Truth campaign. We have things to say that are directly relevant to it, so they're now trying